Okay, so I've just downloaded Final Cut Pro 10 from the App Store, which is £179, and there's also Compressor and Motion for £29 each. I just wanted to get a video up as quickly as possible, showing some of the new features, and this is my first time using it, so I'll be going through it completely blind with only the knowledge of Final Cut Pro 7. I'm looking forward to the new interface. I mean, the old one was boring, and I've spent so many hours in there that a change is the most important thing, really. There's other things such as it being 64-bit, using Grand Central Dispatch, and also using the GPU. So I'm looking for a good speed improvement in this as well. There are some features missing, such as multicam editing, but Apple have said themselves that there'll be about a 6-month release cycle for new features to be added. So if we start straight away, it's offering to import iMovie events or import files or import from camera, which is in a much nicer interface than before. So what I've done, I created an iMovie event from footage that I did as part of the Leicester Comedy Festival with Phil Jupitus. Instead of just importing files, because I assume that everybody knows how to import individual video files. And as Apple have discontinued Final Cut Express, it will be good to see how people can step up from iMovie to Final Cut Pro. It clearly says here your movie event library will be imported into Final Cut Pro, so just press OK and let it do that. So now you can see in the event library we have a new event that we can click on, and yes, this is, I believe, the project that I made in iMovie. This is obviously just from a completed video piece that I cut up into 2 sections, and I'm going to cut it up further. So I guess let's just start by looking at how we can create a new project. So I guess we have to click that. Okay, so very iMovie-like, we'll just call this Final Cut Pro X and add it to the new event that I imported from iMovie. Okay, so now we have the new magnetic timeline, and obviously again with iMovie, like, we can take small segments from our imported library and simply drag them, if I give my computer a chance, into the new timeline. So we can play that through and scrub.
I'm Todd Carty of Grange Hill.
And we can see we have the video element here. We can trim it, bring it back. A great thing here is the audio levels. You could curve them so that we can now have it coming in quieter. Keep that like that and drag it in from the end.
In Spamalot at the De Montfort Hall in Leicester. Isn't that right, Phil?
That's absolutely right, Todd. We're having a lovely, lovely time, and we hope the good citizens of Leicester come along and support us.
Trim that down to just the De Montfort Hall logo at the end there, and then drag that in. Let's just play with it here. So can we see? You can see how if you move it to the left, it pushes that forward. But we'll keep it at the end, and then we'll take another segment just from the middle.
That's right, and we
just any part. We're not going to be accurate here. Just pull it straight down, hover over. It pushes that out of the way, and we drop it in.
What a fantastic opening night, and do you feel a bit down?
Montfort Hall in Leicester. Isn't that right, Phil?
Next thing to do is look at some of the built-in effects, as they've combined Soundtrack Pro and also elements from Colour. So if we just have a look at this toolbar over here, we've got themes, generators, titles, transitions. So let's have a look at transitions first. We're just going to drag a few in, and you can see you get a default preview with 2 predefined images, which is very nice. I mean, I just can't. I mean, Final Cut may have missing features, but what it does have just makes my life so much easier. I like the look of that one, so I'm just going to click that and drag it between these 2 clips. I believe that will do. and then that's no rendering in the background. I mean, I must say that the fan on my MacBook Pro is spinning quite noticeably, so it is obviously intensive, and now it's rendering in the background. It will still attempt to play through, and I would assume that that is to do with the fact that it will use the GPU in addition to the CPU. And you can see here, if I just zoom in this timeline, you can see the background task percent. So now that's done 100%, it's turned green, and now we should be able to just preview the transition.
Hall in Leicester, isn't that right, Phil?
So now if we go back over here, what have we got? The effects browser. And there are thousands of predefined audio effects. So there's video and audio in the same column actually. So we'll just use that as an example. Put over that, and then I assume that will start the render again. So you can see that line has now gone orange, and then the percentage sign over here is going to count up in the background. What is very good, as is with all applications that Apple makes, things seem simple on the surface, but obviously you can click elements and find out more information, such as this progress meter here. A single click on that will bring up a nice window which explains what's going on, and you can also expand the tiles and it shows you exactly what video it's doing. You can pause it, stop it. Now we have the photo browser. Music obviously come from iTunes, and we can choose other sources, a lot of other sources. You can see you've got your GarageBand effects in here as well, and Final Cut sound effects, and even your podcasts as well, and all your playlists from iTunes. If we go back to the video effects and then scroll down to audio effects, I mean we're in a hall here, so let's try adding the cathedral sound effect. We'll add that over the first segment so that we're not just applying everything to one single segment.
In Montfort Hall in Leicester.
So audio effects go straight over with no rendering needed.
We're having a lovely, lovely time. We hope the good citizens of Leicester come along and support us.
In fact, if we want to extend that to hear what it actually says about Gary Lineker, we can grab the clip handle and pull it along, and what you can see is it just pushes this second clip out of the way.
Gary Lineker doesn't eat crisps.
Okay, so he doesn't eat crisps, that's where we're going with that. And it appears that we could have our first crash. Let's open up the Alt Command Escape, so it's not responding. So I'm going to force quit and reopen it and see where it brings us back to. Obviously, thankfully, this isn't an important project. So we'll open that again from the dock. And being the geek I am, I was already impressed by the time that I opened this because of the background and the new loading box. Now we've created something, we've come back into it. We have our event selected here, and we also now have our projects, so we can double click this project and it will go back into timeline view. Let's go back to titles. Okay, so you got categories here, so we'll go for lower thirds so that we can still see them talking. And have a look at what we have here. Sliding panel, that looks good because the theme of Leicester Comedy Festival was blue, and Spam-A-Lot also. They should be placed at the beginning or the end, so I'm going to place it just there. So we've already got text boxes here that we can edit. So if I click in there, can I do anything? Yes, I can. So I've got the cursor, so now I can type in Phil Jupiter's, pull the title into the space above, and you get a purple connecting line wherever you drag it. So we'll put it about there. Obviously the render line is now going to move. Okay, so we've got a title, a video effect, an audio effect, a transition. So now let's look at the generators browser. Okay, so again this kind of takes itself a bit from motion, so to do with making titles, etc. So if I now play that through, we have a gradient, a title, a video effect and an audio effect after a
Hall in
transition.
Leicester. Isn't that right, Phil?
That's absolutely right, Todd.
The
We're having a
title
lovely,
come in,
lovely time. I hope
and
the
there's
good
the
citizens of Leicester come along and
generator
support us. We had a
over the
fantastic
top of
open
it.
night,
Okay, so you can also open another window along the top here, the inspector, by clicking the eye in the far right hand corner, and that means that you can click on elements that you have, and then your usual Mac Inspector window will appear here. And this is where you can do color correction, sound enhancement, etc. So if we just have a look through that, so we can crop it, distort, press show, it brings up the options, and then we can just manipulate these how we like. So you can see we've now distorted that bottom left X, so that now that whole piece of film plays through distorted. Obviously this doesn't look very clever, so we'll just turn it off. Actually, none of this looks very clever because I've just come in and click things just to see how it goes. Okay, so if we're going to use the match colour, we'll tick this blue box here and we'll press choose. Our preview of the colour we're going to change to is on the left and our original is on the right. So if I just click that, it should allow me to then press apply match, which it does, and it also gives you a live preview, so I'll press apply match, and then now the entire segment is rendering. So the first clip now has a colour match on it to the effect that is applied on the second clip. So click the arrow on the far right, and this brings us to our general colour corrector, which is far more easier accessible than Final Cut 7. So we're just going to drag our blacks to a more blue. So that now has several layers of colour correction on it. It has a colour match from the clip with an effect on it, and it now has a green hue that I've added. In audio we can see that this is obviously the clip that I placed the cathedral effect on, so we now have parameters to adjust how strong that effect is. And then we have a general info panel which tells us the file type, the file size, HD, when it was taken, when it starts, finishes, the audio channels and the sample rate. What we're going to do now is take a look through the Final Cut Pro preferences, which now appear to be all in one place. So in the editing tab we have our time display, our timeline. So if you're an advanced user, I assume you'd want to show detailed trimming feedback. The audio, show reference waveforms. You have still images default length, transition default length, which doesn't really matter because you can change it in the timeline for each particular event. In playback we have background render, which starts after 5 seconds of editing something. Playback, roll duration, player background, you can have black, white or checkerboard. Now import, here you have the choice of whether you let Final Cut import your footage and manage it itself, or whether you completely do it. Obviously I have additional options here for Final Cut to further try and fix your footage and fix audio problems before you've even gone through your library to tag things, name them and add them to your project.